Philips Electronics losing market dominance in TSMC and ASML. Philips Electronics, once one of the world's largest electronics companies, has experienced a decline in revenue over the past 15 years, dropping from over $30 billion to less than $20 billion. The company's net income has been just break-even as it slowly bleeds market share in various industries. In 2013, Philips intentionally dropped the word electronics from their name to signal a new focus for the company. Philips has not made much of the stuff they sell themselves, and in 2021, they sold their appliance business to a Chinese private equity firm for $5.2 billion. This means that whenever you see a Philips-branded refrigerator, washing machine, coffee maker, or air fryer, know that Philips has nothing to do with it. It is actually operated by some Chinese investment firm that bought the rights to the Philips branding. The story of Philips dates back to 1891, when Gerard Philips, a Dutchman, started a business by financing the purchase of an empty factory building in Eindhoven. The first products that came out of this factory were carbon filament lamps, something that Philips is still known for 130 years later, lighting. Things weren't going so well back then either. In an effort to turn around the company, Gerard recruited his younger brother Anton, who was an engineer but also a natural businessman. He pivoted the company from focusing on lamps to focusing on light bulbs and came up with creative ways to leverage the boycott of German goods throughout World War I to promote Philips. In 1924, Anton helped found the Phoebus Cartel, which was the origin of planned obsolescence. Light bulb technology was advancing rapidly, leading to concerns that light bulbs would soon last forever, meaning far less light bulb sales. Philips, GE, and a few other lighting giants agreed to artificially limit light bulb technology in Geneva, Switzerland in 1925. This arrangement was supposed to last 30 years, but it came to an end during World War II, 14 years later. Philips' number one disadvantage was trying to control markets through brute force and monopolistic practices. By the late 1900s, Philips became a cassette giant and was ahead on CD and DVD technology. However, they shied away from launching CD and DVD products because they didn't want to cannibalize their cassette business. Sony and Toshiba were interested in popularizing DVDs and their own DVD standards, and Philips got left behind in the dust. In general, Philips tried to control markets using cunning business strategies instead of just out-innovating the competition. This strategy worked when the competition wanted to lay back and operate an oligopoly. But when the competition was interested in pushing things forward, Philips rarely kept up. Philips has been a pioneer in various industries since its inception. In 1920, they began manufacturing vacuum tubes, radio generators, and Nouriel cochevers. However, the company faced challenges during World War II when Germany invaded the Netherlands, leading the Philips family to flee to the US. They opened the North American Philips Company and survived the war, returning to the Netherlands with a new vigor. In 1949, Philips began selling TVs, entering the records industry, expanding to South America, and single-handedly pioneering the audio cassette and video cassette industries. However, as they continued to grow, Philips became more arrogant and less careful, feeling that they were on top of the world. This mindset led to a loss of edge within the chip industry, similar to how Xerox, a pioneer in the computing age, was thrown away. Philips sold off their entire stake in ASML, Europe's largest tech company, ASML, by the turn of the century. They also gave away TSMC, which was Philips' first investor and lifeline in the chip industry. In return, TSMC gave Philips a 27.5% stake in TSMC, which they sold off by 2008. TSMC stock has since 13x ED, and TSMC is now a top 10 company worth over $700 billion. Philips' decision to give up on technology in the 2000s was not accidental or circumstantial, but rather intentional. Instead of focusing on electronics, Philips publicly waved the white flag and dropped the word electronics from their company name. Instead, they focused on becoming a healthcare company, producing imaging machines, ultrasound machines, and respiratory care products. This was not a bad idea, as the healthcare industry had market regulations and market opportunities. For an established giant like Philips, breaking into the healthcare industry was difficult due to massive upfront capital requirements, regulations, and having to know the right people. However, for an established giant like Philips, this was the perfect opportunity. They had plenty of capital to throw around, knew their way around regulations and legislation, and big-name connections that could get them into hospitals around the world. Patients were already familiar with the Philips brand, so they could leverage that brand awareness and credibility. The tech industry, on the other hand, has a low barrier for entry, meaning that disruptions are often seen from up-and-coming players. As a worn-down, tired giant, Philips simply wasn't in the best shape to constantly defend their turf against new players. They moved on, accepting that disruptions would occur. Philips remains in a strong position to become a leading background healthcare electronics provider, which should keep the company afloat and healthy for decades to come. However, it is a shame to look back at what Philips used to be just a few decades ago, as they went from being a tech leader to giving up on tech altogether. Nouriel, Gino, Yazdinian.